So what I was saying was who responsible, what parent in their right mind takes a child who's on the ground and doesn't call 911 first? Now, I wish I was exaggerating. I wish I had a different outcome to this, but this is what I've been living with for the past 17 years. Not because I have a grudge, not because I have some sort of score to settle with the mom, which I haven't been with for over like 20 years, 21 years. I don't have a score to settle. Yeah, she's a court reporter in Bucks County, but he is in need of an MRI or CAT scan for the brain damage that happened to him. Now, why is that important? Because 600 people told me you call 911 when your child hits the ground. That's what's important here. You do the right thing no matter what. Now to come to find out that a woman who happens to know the law and know the ins and outs of the law, of the police, of investigators, of lawyers, of judges, of the questions that would be asked, the only person who knows, not the only, but when this happened to my son in her care, and I find out 4 years later by accident, not because she told me, I call the child abuse hotline and tell them the list of things that I had up until that point because he was suffering so bad because of her. I never got a phone call back. I never got a phone call telling me that, hey, Mr. Edel, we find nothing wrong in this problem in her report. But what about the long list? What about the 56 times he was at the doctor's office from 2002 to 2007? What about the 56 times? What about that? Doesn't that show a point of progression? Listen, when I tell you not a phone call back after I called, gave him my name, her name, his name, my social, her social, his my address, her address, my employer, her employer, his school, and told them my phone number, her phone number. I told them all of this valuable information so that they can investigate because they asked me that they didn't call me back. Why didn't they call me back? I've called them many times over the years. Not one phone call back. She works for the judges and for the Judicial Center in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. That's why I never got a phone call back. Am I angry about that? It's been so many years. It's been 20 years since then. It doesn't change the fact that the boy, excuse me, now man, 23 years old, he was born in 2002, that you get him an MRI or CAT scan. He's got residual brain damage that went untreated for so many years. But I raised the question, who can cover that up? Who's allowed to? Who can take a phone call from the Pennsylvania Child Abuse Hotline and say, we're not investigating this? The people she works with. That's the problem. There's a breakdown in judicial prudence, taxpayer money. There's the cover up. Why didn't anybody ever call me back? In 2007, I wouldn't be making this video today. There's a whole list that come out of that that's happened since then. Um, he was misdiagnosed uh, for other things, and the concussions, the two concussions he had one in August 23, 2003, and in July 14th, 2023, 2003, excuse me, not 23, 2003. I'm spitballing this because I wrote a whole long message about it, and I said I'll just try to do it from the heart instead. But as a father, not finding out ever that your child lay on the ground limp and almost died, and since I've made the report to Pennsylvania, they have never, ever called me back. They have never talked to me about it. And I've made plenty of reports. This is what taxpayers are paying for. This is a taxpayer funded program. The 1-800 Pennsylvania Child Abuse Hotline is a taxpayer funded program that they're supposed to call when you're supposed to call as a citizen, to call and tell them if you suspect child abuse. I call, they don't call back because they pick and choose what they wanted to do. Why? I didn't know my son was allowed to have special accommodations, being that she works for judges, because she works for the county, because she works for the judicial. Who gave them the right to stop investigating this claim that I officially made over the phone to their call intake center? I believe it's in Harrisburg. The call went from Harrisburg to the intake center, to the regional center, to Lower Bucks County, to the Bucks County Children and Youth. That phone call, that report that was put in there, who's who in what. She works for Judge Rubenstein. I worked for Perkins at the time. He went to Quarry Hill Elementary at that time. All that information that they asked me that day over the phone, I provided to them. They got the report. They never called back. Why? If there was nothing there, a citizen calls, makes a report, and not a phone call back. Now saying, Mr. Edel, based on your phone call, there is nothing there. I didn't get that. I didn't get an email. I did not get the courtesy. Here comes an airplane right by. Hold on. I didn't get a phone call, a courtesy call to say, Mr. Edel, based on your phone call. I didn't get that. I didn't get a sorry, but we can't investigate this. No. I didn't get a phone call saying, Mr. Edel, there's a lot that you said over the phone. We're going to have a different county investigate your claim, because it happened in Bucks County, in Yardley Borough, Bucks County, in Pennsylvania. Another county is going to take your phone call and to investigate, because we don't want any conflict of interest. We want to keep things above board. What you said over the phone to us sounds legitimate. Let's look at the document. Let's look at what you're talking about. Let's look at why he was at the doctor's 56 times. Let's look at his school records. I got nothing. And I'm saying that because we're better than that as Americans. Somebody who doesn't call 911 has something to hide. I don't care about that. I don't care about prosecuting her. I don't care about the fact that I was jailed for 13 months for trying to tell them what's happened recently. Within the past 4 years, I was jailed because I called those out who are in charge accountable. I was jailed and never tried. I was falsely charged. I did not have a trial. I did not speak in front of a judge about my side of a story that they charged me for. But I was incarcerated. because I brought documents that support child abuse to the police. What kind of injustice is that? I only care about is his father, him getting tested so his brain, we know where his damage is. That's what I asked for. That's what I asked the Yardley Borough Police Chief Joseph Kelly. That's what I talked to Sergeant Golden from Yardley Borough Police Department. That's a fair, valid question. They didn't do it in 2007. I've asked 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 2020, 2021, when I got charged. I asked him, where is the MRI that says he doesn't have brain damage? Doesn't he have a right to know? If his mom didn't do it back then, and I've been trying since 2007, don't I have a right to know? Doesn't he have a right to know? I didn't mean to convolute the story about my incarceration. I tried to give a synopsis of what's happened because I called and blew the whistle, what I got out of it for trying to do the right thing. So for taxpayers, for citizens of the United States of America, if you suspect child abuse, as Pennsylvania wants you to do, to call their child abuse hotline, think twice. Think twice about your outcome, but also think about what you're going to do if they don't call back. That resource, that taxpayer-funded resource, is there to help fathers like me who called into question, who has suspected child abuse, for them to investigate. They never called. They'll even claim I never called. But I have they did that to my face over the phone when I called Marge McEwen from Bucks County Children and Youth. She told me over the phone, you never made a phone call. I said, yes, I did. And I have the records to prove it. My child's life was in danger when he hit the ground. His life, his baby body was 16 months old, 25 pounds. He was about this long. She reported it happened on one step. One step is 7 inches. His baby brain hits 6 inches and he passes out, goes unconscious. It's a bullshit story. That's what I try to tell Pennsylvania Child Abuse Hotline. That's what I've been telling people ever since. Why didn't they call back? Privilege. The people in Bucks County took somebody who works for them, who had been working for them for the then 4 years, thought, instead of investigating what I had to say, it would have been fair to say, Mr. Edel, we're going to make special accommodation for you. We got the phone call. We know it. Let's help protect your child. But they said this to my kid. They said that to me. We don't want to investigate this. You can't tell me over the phone that I didn't make the phone call because I have records that support that. You can't deny it didn't happen. It went to 3 different agencies back in 2007. It went from Harrisburg to regional to Lower Bucks County. The report was made. Unless it got cut off at the top, that report was made. I just told you over the video all of the things that they asked me for. Do I sound like somebody who's lying? So the question is, how do I get my son tested? How do we get him a proper MRI? How do we get him to know, as old as he is now, what his deficits are? I know through his schooling, he was in special education. I know that he had his own IEP. I know he had special accommodations in school when he was in Quarry Hill. I know he was tested for ADHD by Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, which is a whole nother fiasco, another day. But when your child lay limp on the ground and you don't call 911, you have something to hide. I get it. Accidents happen. I get it. And I've talked to, like I said, 600 plus people. But when 600 plus people say You call 911 first, or you pick them up and go to the hospital. And not one out of the 600 plus people, and if I've asked you, please comment on it. If I've asked the question, not one person ever said you pick up the phone, you call the pediatrician, make an appointment for later on that day. And that's exactly what she did. So I don't care about the logistics about getting her in trouble. That's their choice. They backed a child abuser. It's an abuse. It's a crime because, according to the hospital's emergency personnel and first responders police, when an infant has a life-sustaining incident that involves their brain, they're brought into the emergency room. CPS is called first. CPS will be brought in before the child leaves the hospital. That came from people who work in the hospital. When I've asked the question, they said CPS is involved first. So the child, they get the 911 call, ambulance comes, we're getting the child in better condition. We know what kind of life, but we don't know those details because an incident report, which the doctor questioned, Southampton Pediatrics, Dr. Klein, questioned on the report when I read it, and I would love to provide it. She said the same thing twice on one document. The mom was home, doesn't walk yet, hit his head, went limp, eyes rolled back of his head, held his breath, vomited, cried. Medically speaking, when the brain goes through concussion and that guts inside of your head hemorrhages, the blood can encapsulate on one side, wherever the hit was, because we don't know officially. CPS would want to know what happened to that child. Should we give the child back? Is there something in question we should do? Well, that's where I'm at. That's why I'm making this plea. Because what happened with my son at 16 months old, her golden retriever had before my son was born, had 3 injuries to his legs that he needed surgery for. When I first met her dog Leo was on his 3rd surgery for his leg because she wasn't able to take care of the dog. Didn't put 2 and 2 together at first, but I'm sitting here now saying it. FDIA, Munchausen syndrome by proxy, saying one thing but really something else is going on, has been the symptomatically the problem since jump. And there goes another airplane. Beautiful night out. Go birds. Go birds. Another one. Gets them near an airport. If 600 people are telling me you call 911, and she doesn't call 911, and he's in a life-threatening situation, is that a crime or is that not a crime? Because Bucks County didn't seem to make it important to them to call back for the life of my son to figure out, even 4 years later, because from what I've read, bruising on the brain or inside of the cavity, inside of your skull, there's a very good possibility that he has hemorrhaging or he has scar tissue from where the brain hit the skull. And she never found that out. And I've never found it out. I've asked the questions to get it found out, but that's what's important here. It's not logistics as far as what's happened. Get the boy tested. Get the answers he needs. If a football player gets a concussion on the field, they pull him off. They give him an MRI CAT scan. They do concussion protocols for football players. They do post-concussion protocols for. My son was denied basic basic service for what happened to him. So that's what I'm asking. I'm making this video so that in hopes that he can have a better future. So he can know medically his facts. Does he have the scarring? Does he have brain damage? His medical records state that. I'm not making this shit up. I got nothing to lose here. But a call was made. How many other citizens of America or from Pennsylvania or from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, or from Yardley, Pennsylvania, has made a phone call trying to protect their kids and they didn't do shit? Why are the taxpayers paying for this? Because in my estimation, through this whole entire process, through all the years, it's cost roughly $34 million, which includes part of my incarceration and institutionalization. But they're frauding doctors for lying to them about what's happened to him, for inventing different scenarios that are not a part of his medical history. It's called FDIA, and that's what I like to speak out more another time. But I've figured now, with it being such a nice night out tonight, and it is gorgeous here in Atlantic County, New Jersey, that he get tested. Him get tested because I love him. I don't care what's happened to me. I don't care what has happened. I don't want anything bad to happen to any party. The only party here that doesn't know what's happened to his history or what's really and true and can help him have a better future is my son Joshua. And that's who I love. And that's who I care about. And that's what I want to see to happen. So I'm not trying to be vindictive or angry or get somebody fired. I just wanted him. Just like that day when he took that fall. That his daddy couldn't been there for him. And his daddy's been fighting for him ever since I found out. In 17 years, I've been fighting to find out what those answers are. And I'll tell you this, Bucks County, Yardley Borough Police Department, the judges in Bucks County has denied me the availability to access to get him the testing because they've stopped me. Even when I asked point blank Joseph Kelly from Yardley Borough Police Department, did you get him tested? He said no. When I was in court for my own stuff, I told a judge that my son was abused and in open court, and they didn't do a thing. They didn't stop court. They didn't try to find out what's true or what's not true. Bucks County owes my son, and we owe him an MRI or CAT scan. So that's why I speak up. And I have more to come about that. So thank you for listening. Pray for him, pray for me as I'm getting my life restarted after being incarcerated because of this. And I hope that we can do better as Americans, because I stand on that, because I'm an American and I love this country. And if we can learn something new from this, that's fine. And for all you parents out there who may be thinking to myself, why I didn't call 911 when my child laid on the ground and there's no crime, and just hug your kids, just tell them you love them, and try to do better. And that's what we should be doing, being kind to one another and loving each other. So that's why I'm here. Thanks for listening.